As Iran's financial markets really start to open up, tell me, what role, if any, will the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank play?
Well, Iran just this past week has become one of the 35 founding members of that bank. And when you think about the fact that the bank will be established towards the end of this year, you absolutely would see a situation where Iran's going to be poised to tap some of the funding that will come from that bank, in particular when it comes to public sector financing for infrastructure projects. And really, that's a reality that's going to be moving forward important for Iran, whether there's a deal reached or not.
So what other key emerging bank players should we be watching out for as the market really sort of opens up?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the banks that are already there, that already have pre-established relationships, that maybe aren't as hesitant to operate as maybe some of the Western banks. So banks that are Turkish banks, Chinese banks, you could see more Indian and Emirati banks going in as well. That'll have ramifications for the companies from those countries as well, for allowing them to maybe get a head start on banking transactions that are legal under the sanctions regime as they're being lifted, but maybe some Western banks are more hesitant to undertake.
So beyond the obvious question about the sphere of influence sort of moving away from West, moving towards some of these other emerging players, let's talk about business opportunities. What could the AIIB or any of these emerging market players really play into?
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure bank will obviously potentially have ramifications on just public sector infrastructure projects. So thinking about sectors like transportation, sectors like building up tourism, thinking about mining, that's another important area, and then obviously oil and gas. Those are all sectors that are potentially poised for growth in Iran. There's a lot of need for investment there, and there's a lot of also potential for those sectors to grow.
Funnily, as a market analyst, you are watching Iran closer than perhaps anyone else I know. How would you describe this period in Iran's long-term growth story?
It is a very exciting time. It's an exciting time, but it's also a time of being measured and being thoughtful about what type of plan you would have as far as going in, because it's still a market that has its own unique challenges, and then obviously sanctions, even if there's sanctions relief, injects some other challenges as well. But the fact is, Iran is the largest untapped emerging market in the world, and because of that, there's going to be a lot of potential demand if a final nuclear deal is reached. And it's something that, from a demographics perspective, you see, Iran is the second largest population in Middle East, North Africa. More than 60% of the population is under the age of 30, very well educated, high literacy rate, something that is very attractive to consumer goods companies, to healthcare companies, as well as technology companies. And then from a government spending perspective, if Iran's able to attract more investment in oil and gas infrastructure, that gives them a lot more money to spend on infrastructure development. And that attracts companies really across sectors.